Intelligent automation is developing rapidly, from simple robots a few years ago to intelligent robots and more automation solutions today. The hyperautomation buzz is everywhere. But what is hyperautomation and what does it mean for your organization? Today I'm joined by Robin. Robin is an expert in the field of hyperautomation. Welcome, Robin.
Thanks, Wouter.
Robin, could you tell us a bit more about what hyperautomation is and what are its benefits?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we saw in the field of hyperautomation a massive transformation from more task-oriented automation towards more process-oriented automation. So hyperautomation, it's not only about adding more technologies on your layer. It's more about setting automation in the core of your organization. And so how to use it, setting the right approach for it, your organizational structure, so how you can industrialize automation, basically.
Yeah, so you talked about the massive transformation within hyperautomation last couple of years. Could you tell us a bit more about what you saw happening in the last couple of years within automation?
Yeah, sure. So the last couple of years there were a few developments. So we see that the major players in the field of RPA, like UiPath, Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere, are now moving into the space of hyperautomation. So expanding their platforms. So it's not only about RPA anymore, but really about platforms. So that's a nice development. Otherwise, we see more cloud-related offerings of the vendors. So making it easier to access automation for new joiners, and even also a new joiner on the market. Microsoft scored high this year in the Forrester Wave, the Gartner as a leader, due to their cloud offering. So that are a few developments. And also looking at the technical possibilities. So there are new use cases, and we see that organizations are facing those new technologies now and think, what's next for me? How should I cope with it? So that's also an organizational challenge, how to keep up with basically the technology.
So Robin, what do you see happening in the next couple of years?
Yeah, in the next couple of years, a few developments are important. So first of all, we see that organizations really are going into a stepping field right now of scaling also hyperautomation. And so in the last year, they've experimented, they tried it, and now they need to scale. So that's the first development. Secondly, we see that means that the organizational setup needs to change. It's different than that you have one process automated instead of 100 with different technologies, different processes, different departments. So that means something for your organizational structure and your approach on automation. Thirdly, you see the new capabilities are still expanding. And traditionally, we saw that automation took place in HR, in finance, and now you see it's becoming more and more popular in different departments. For example, customer care, where you have an interaction with your clients, but also in the admin tasks of customer care, you see that. So you see that hyperautomation expands also from a department point of view. And finally, an interesting development is the citizen developer topic. So you see that a lot of vendors are now making it more easy to develop automations. And it means that you have a discussion going on, where should we place automation? Business users can automate their own task right now, and that means also something for the organization and the setup. So who will be responsible for the development of your automations? Who will maintain it? So those questions will arise next year. We are keen on seeing what the future brings there.
So what companies should start with hyperautomation and which companies should start their hyperautomation journey today?
I think it's applicable for all companies. We've seen companies with structured, mature processes stepping into automation field first. So really mature processes, sometimes more standardized. But last year with COVID, we saw that, especially in the public sector, new processes in organizations were set up. And we automated them also quickly. So we see also there a shift from structured, mature processes to non-existing new processes, basically. So that's interesting. Especially now the early adopters of RPA are beginning to tap into the field of hyperautomation. So their backlog of use cases is dried up for RPA. So the quick wins are often implemented already. And they now look in the next step to expand their backlog and use cases. But I think it's also good for companies that just started their RPA journey our automation journey or not even started yet, to from start experiment with different technologies. And so make the organization mature, aware of these possibilities. So it will be easier to implement on full scale as well.
Yeah. So wherever you are within your hyperautomation journey, if you're very mature or just a new joiner, it will be very interesting for your organization to have a look at this development and to keep it in mind. So would you like to know more about hyperautomation and what it could offer for your organization? Please reach out to us and we'll be happy to tell you more.